Well, well, well. Welcome out, everybody. I hope you're happy to be here and enjoying the time that we've had to just
Someone just walked in.
chat and shoot the breeze. Oh, somebody walked in? Excellent.
I've seen a couple people walking around. I don't know who's
Well, we'll see if they come on by. Are you coming? No? Okay. No, not coming.
What are they doing in there?
All right, well, welcome tonight to Utah Zig. It's good to see you all. And I want to thank again Vivint for hosting us, providing us wonderful pizza, endless Dr. Pepper, or Pepsi if you swing that way, and welcome you all out tonight. So one of the reasons that I don't give presentations anymore is because I'm, busy and scattered, and I don't have the time to give good presentations. But since no one else stepped up for the topic tonight, I'll give a bad presentation. So that's what we're doing. But actually, I think it'll be a little bit better than the first time I gave this. I'm not going to bring up the slides from the first time I gave this, because I think towards the beginning of the year, I did this, and I felt like I did a decent job. But then there was no one here, and it could have been better. Anyway, so
Me and Jeff were there.
what I actually want to do is do live code together so we can get a feel for what Zig is. And because now I'm up from 1 to 2 Zig projects. It's been a year and some change between the two of them, and the syntax has changed quite a bit. So, but I'm actually starting to feel better about it overall. I'm starting to feel more familiar. So let me go ahead and see here what I want to bring up. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of an overview of Zig. We're going to go over how to get to the documentation, kind of what the philosophy is of it. But I don't want to spend too much time on that. I want to spend a lot of time just on the keyboard going through a hello world, build a little CLI tool, or if somebody has some suggestions of what to do, we can explore in that direction. But at this point, my experience is just in CLI tools, which is one of the things that I'm really excited about having Zig for, because I like the idea of having more and better CLI tools. And I love Go, but Go, even TinyGo kind of makes it all right, but Go is just, it's too big. It has the cross-platform nature that I want. When you use TinyGo, you lose access to syscalls. So if you want to do something that is kind of operating system specific, like let's say open a child process, you can't do that with TinyGo. And if you do it with Go, then your binary size is pretty much, the floor is about 3 megabytes. No matter what you want to do, you're going to be stuck at that. And so I come from a generation, I'm of a certain age, and I come from a certain generation where we just don't, it's just a little bit inappropriate to have a tool that manipulates text to be countable in megabytes as opposed to dozens of kilobytes, or potentially hundreds of kilobytes if you got something that's quite advanced. So that's kind of my intro. I'm AJ, by the way. Y'all know that for anybody that decides to tune online. I'm AJ, and I kind of fell off from the Rust community because they were making some technical decisions that I didn't like, and then they started making political decisions that I didn't like. And I'm sure everybody's heard about some of their controversy, and some people are on the side of the foundation and some people aren't. Whatever, that's not the point. But point is that I really like what I see in Zig, because it gives me everything that I love about Go, almost everything I love about Go, I mean minus the 10 years of stability, and then just about everything I love about Rust, and I get it all in one package, and so I think that's really great. So that's my Zig story. Like I said, I've only done 2 projects. They're both CLI projects, but I'm really interested to see how things progress. I'm hopeful for an eventual maturity, although I know that's not the goal right now. If you're on the Zig journey right now, it's going to be a bumpy ride, and you accept that. And that's just the way it is. So with that out of the way, let me go ahead and just bring us to the main Zig website. I'll open this tab like this. So ziglang.org. And for those of you that have a computer, if you wanted to install it, so I manage a tool called Webby. I'll go here real quick. I think this is worth mentioning, not as a self-promotion, but I created it because it solves a real problem. So whether you're a Mac user or a Linux user, you've run into the problem where, like brew, or you try to install something like Node or whatever it is, and you end up with a bunch of permission errors, and then you end up not knowing what to do, and you kind of just scrap that VM or back up your downloads and documents folder and then start over. Because like the path gets messed up, and there's stuff goes into system locations, and then you start getting conflicts between libraries, and it's a bad time. And that's the reason that one of the reasons that I created Webby. And you can just copy and paste whatever it is that you want. There's a whole bunch of tools. There's a whole list of them, and I got a little 5-minute video I created a few years ago as to kind of explain the basic premise of it, but I'm telling you now. So it's meant to be memorable, webby.sh. So you just curl, it's got to be HTTPS. That's because curl doesn't do that by default yet. And if you do HTTP, then you can be banned in the middle, whatever. That's a different topic. Sorry, I'll try to not ramble too much, but I do ramble a lot. Anyway, so you can just copy and paste that, and that's going to install the current stable version of Zig, which pretty much nobody does that. But you can also swap it out to do an @latest. Oh, does somebody want to come in? Yeah, somebody's trying to come in. So you can swap
They're
that.
probably calling Jeff.
So you can give a little tag on there, an @latest, and that's going to grab whatever the latest get tag is. And so now I have the latest Zig installed. We can see that, and it's because Zig 13. One of the issues that we'll get into is that the documentation is always bleeding edge, and so if you're using a quote unquote stable version of Zig, you're not actually gonna have a good time battling the documentation. So the reason that I recommend installing it this way is it's actually going to go fetch the Zig package, the official package, just the tarball, and it's going to unzip it into the user directory so that it won't conflict with any system paths. And then it doesn't do anything fancy to manage the versions. It doesn't have any hooks into the shell or do any directory reading. It's very dumb. It just has a symlink, and it moves the symlink. And on Windows, there's actually a similar thing to symlinks called junctions. It uses junctions for directories, or in the case of binaries, it just copies binary. But the point is that it makes it so that you can fearlessly do this, and also all of the versions that you've ever installed will be in your downloads Webby Zig folder. And so if you need to go back to a version where something was working because you just updated, then you can run the local command Webby and then say, for example, Webby Zig @, and then I can give it a specific version. And then, okay, that didn't work out, so never mind. But you can manually relink it yourself. So if we look into, maybe this is what I did wrong. I could try. It might have been that I canonicalize the names so that they have a V in the version. And so that might be what this was about. I'm going to try this again. We'll see if it works out or not. No, it doesn't. That's okay. That doesn't really matter. With the nightly versions, when you do @latest, it grabs it from a get tag, and the system doesn't handle it very well. But you could manually redo the symlinks just to show this. And I didn't want to spend too much time on this, but I think it is really helpful if you can manage versions and not have too much of the shell stuff going on. Just kind of keep it simple. So you can see it's just a symlink here. Hopefully you can see. Let me try to make it a little bigger. It's just a symlink from .localopzig to whatever the version is. So if you ever needed to switch back to another version because you're like, crap, I want to continue working on my project. I wanted this new feature, but I don't want the new feature as much as I just want to be able to continue my project. it's a decent way to go about handling it, and you have a file history of what was there, and then you can manually clean it up if you want. It doesn't do any auto cleaning, which good thing, bad thing, whatever. Anyway, so and of course you can download it yourself, and then you can do the same process. You can create the directory, you can unpack it, you can add it to your path. This just automates that process, and it automates it for a bunch of tools. Okay, so I want to go over, kind of the highlights of what's the philosophy of the language. It's hidden. I was reading the one word across.
No hidden.
Not hidden. It's a simple language. I was looking down at the list items and then started speaking. So there's no hidden control flow, no hidden memory allocations, no preprocessor or macros, which is kind of true, kind of not true in the sense that Zig, the language itself, you can script Zig in Zig, and I think that we'll actually get into that. Comptime is absolutely genius. It's one of those things where you look at it and you think, this is obvious. Why wasn't this done back in the 60s? But for whatever reason, it wasn't, probably because of academics, because they like to say, well, this is the way you should do it. But I don't know.
There's also hindsight.
Maybe I shouldn't blame the academics. I don't know. It just seems kind of obvious. Like if you're going to build a language, why wouldn't you build the language why wouldn't you use the language as part of the language? I don't know how to explain it. Comptime just makes sense. It's so simple and obvious that and Comptime just basically means that if something can be computed ahead of time, if a value can be known before the compiler goes at it, then it will be known. And then there's this other thing about Zig, which is that it gives you a good tooling in front of LLVM to be able to do cross compilation, and gives you an alternative to GNU libc, so that you can just get a better story for if you want to maintain projects and have them work in different environments, Alpine, Docker, deployments, Ubuntu, whatever. And then
Zig wraps Clang, but it's smaller than Clang because they don't ship the libcs in compiled form. They ship it in source form.
Huh.
It's like 200 megabytes smaller than the library wraps. It's kind of fun.
Interesting. Okay, and then we've got the get started, the documentation, and I want to show you a little bit about the documentation, and we'll try to get to the hello world. But you know what hello world is, so. So there's two pieces of the documentation. There's this, the language reference, which is kind of like a book. Like I could imagine this being a book that gets sold on Amazon at some point. It's got different sections, and each of them has a header and shows you examples. I actually don't use this that much. I think this is really, I probably should use it more because I still don't have the fundamentals down. And this is kind of what teaches you the fundamentals, is what are the primitives types? What are the primitive values? How do you use the testing suite? So I really would do myself a great service, especially as I continue on my Zig journey, to spend more time in here, because I fundamentally, honestly, don't understand the language that well. Like I'm struggling with basic concepts because there's the trade-off of I want to learn something new, but I also want to get crap done. And so, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to fall back to using Go or JavaScript. But sometimes, at least for one of the projects that I just did, which was more of a personal project than anything, but Zig was the better choice. It was the clear win, even with the struggle of the documentation being out of date and everything.
Yeah, didn't you have August help you? You had August?
Yeah, well, that one, yes. But I had GPT help me with the other one.
Okay.
And it worked surprisingly well. I was able to copy and paste error messages, and then it was able to actually, and this is a testament, I think, to there is some amount of code that's being available for training and documentation that is living long enough for GPT to get trained on it. So I think that's actually a really good sign, just in terms of maturity. But anyway, so, and I wish they would link to the standard library from here, because most of the time what you want is not the language introduction, but what you want is the standard library. And when you click on the standard library, It's kind of like GoDoc, or what Russ calls it, RustDoc. It's pretty standard. It's like most languages have, except that there's no examples and there's almost never any comments. Like the chance of finding an example in the standard library, it's just not going to happen. And you're really, really lucky when there's any comments. So it does make it a little bit difficult.
There's test cases though, right?
It's not documented like PHP.
Do you want to leave the room? That's offensive. Keep those 3-letter words to yourself. Wait, Zig's a 3-letter word.
I feel incredibly awkward right now.
Good.
Sorry, what was your name?
Me, I'm Brooke. Jeff's available tonight, so I'm staying in as the.
Oh, okay. You are Jeff's wife?
No, just another employee.
Oh, okay.
She's standing in. So I'm just going to give you an example of something that I came across and how this is a little bit different than things that I'm familiar with in the past. So with Zig, everything is a value. And that's kind of like JavaScript. Like JavaScript, you can attach like a value onto a function or a class or pretty much anything other than a string or a Boolean. You can just throw stuff at it. And Zig seems to be a bit that way. Everything is a first-class citizen. Or maybe not everything. I imagine the literals
Well,
are not.
In JavaScript, everything is an object, right? Whereas in Zig, everything's a value.
Well,
Like the difference is whether it's boxed.
so I guess what I want to say is namespaces can both be instantiable and can have properties, kind of like static members of a class. So the thing that I was doing last night was with child process, and this documentation, when you go to the standard library, I am not aware of how you get a versioned version of the standard library. I guess you could just run Zig, what is it, like Zig doc or something, and then open it up locally.
Well, the version has to do with, the version of Zig, the Zig compiler.
So can I open up the doc from here?
Yeah, Zig SCD.
What?
Yeah, right there.
Oh, there it is. View standard library documentation. So I was looking for something that would say doc. Okay, so this is probably the better way to go about it, which is not what I was doing, is to, let's see, what is this doing? Where's this going to go? Okay. Loading. So I guess it's doing some compiling. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is probably what I should have been doing last night. And then when I pasted these URLs into GPT on localhost, I'm sure it would have gone swimmingly. But for example, child process in v13 either doesn't have, no, wait a minute, it says that it has it here. Oh no, because I'm not in v13. Hold on, let me go back to v13. So we're going to do @stable. And that's going to bring us back to v13, and let me try that again. I was going to have to recompile it and all that, and then reopen it. There we go.
The other fun thing is that the compiler front end for Zig is also shipped in source form. So that means you can get the most optimized code for your particular machine to run the tokenizer and the parser and that sort of thing.
Okay. So what I was doing was I was implementing timeout, which is a new POSIX utility that has not been standardized previously and doesn't exist on Mac OS. It does exist on Linuxes. I'm not sure how the BSDs are doing and having that implemented so far. But anyway, I just wanted to implement it because I've had this long vision. This is one of the things I'd love to do with Zig, is to have the POSIX standard library written in a sane language that can work on many different platforms. And since Zig has a really great cross-compile story, it's super, super easy to cross-compile across the POSIX/Unix-y operating systems, meaning everything except for Windows. And then even with Windows, you can cross-compile, but it's a little bit more work if you need to use certain syscalls or whatever. And sometimes it is with Mac, because there are things that are different about Mac. But anyway, so I was in here, and I'm looking at the standard library, and I don't know what I'm looking for, and stuff changes all the time. So if you find something on Stack Overflow, it's probably wrong. I mean, like radical changes, and they're good. I don't know that I've come across any change in Zig where when I look at the previous documentation and the current documentation, I think to myself, what a poor choice. I don't think that's ever happened, which I'm a very critical person, and I say that about just about everything. So I can't sing Zig's praises enough in terms of the choices that they're making to simplify things, find the right abstractions, and I think the break-in changes all the time are going to be worth it, because in the end I think we're going to have the best language that's ever existed. Anyway.
Do they have Webby?
There are more tools being brought in to the standard ecosystem. I noticed that I started getting some for free. I don't know if ZLS has made it in or not. Maybe it did.
Made it into what?
Made it into Zig, the install.
So the ultimate plan for the language server is to make the Zig compiler run as a language server. So ZLS is just kind of a temporary, kind of a hack solution.
Yeah. Well, in any case, last time I used it, I started getting automatic formatting, and maybe I did install a plugin for it, but I don't remember installing a specific plugin for it, so I was like, oh wow, that's cool. But maybe I did. I probably did.
Zig format does come with the compiler.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyway, the point that I wanted to get to here, the thing that I was talking about, one of the things I think is fundamental to know, so fundamental that I'm doing it before the hello world here, is the namespace hierarchy that you get, and that there is an important distinction between things that are lowercase and things that are camel case and things that are all caps. And I don't exactly know what that distinction is. I don't know how to articulate, but it is.
You just feel it. It's a feeling.
Well, no, it's an intentional choice.
No, we just feel it.
Like child dot init is not capitalized because we don't capitalize init, right? Is that what you're saying?
What? Oh, and one thing I don't like is that when you hit back,
button is not
the back button does not work like it should. In
Yeah,
my
it doesn't
opinion,
bring back your search.
they could fix this. This would be a very simple change. I might actually look into it and see if I can do a pull request, because it would be like a 3-line change to fix the back button. It just needs one of two things: either a global click handler that always runs the history function before the click event navigates to the new page. So basically, you can either debounce, like wait for a person to stop typing and then save the state, or you can have a global click handler that when you click on any link, it invokes the save state function right then. And
You should wait till Hacktoberfest to do that so you can get
I don't even want to do that.
I
But
don't think you need a debounce though, because you're doing local searches, so anything faster, like anything, like you don't, it's not that slow to like do a local search, right, of text.
no, because you don't want to have to click back 10 times in the history. You don't want to have to click back for every character that you typed.
Gotcha.
That's the reason for the
It's
debouncer.
worse than going back and losing the search.
Well, no, because it would work for the first back, which is normally what you want.
Yeah.
You go forward and then back 1, not forward and then back 3. But yeah, it would be really annoying if you had a common pattern of going back 3. Anyway, so this is, and I might be explaining this wrong, so feel free to correct me, whatever. But essentially, you have things that are namespaces. Like standard is a namespace. You don't instantiate standard. You don't have an instance of standard. Likewise, you don't have an instance of process. But child is both a namespace and it's also something that you can instantiate. It's also a struct. So, and this goes back to everything is a value. It is a struct, but the struct itself is a value. The struct itself can have properties, not the instance of the struct, but the struct.
Everything is a struct, even a file.
So what you'll see here is that there's child, and you can create an instance of child, and the way that you do that in this particular case is to call spawn. Was it spawn or was it init? Actually, I think it was init. I think spawn shortcuts some stuff. So you can see here, the way the documentation reads, it's a public function. That's why it's showing up in the documentation. The name of the function. And then this doesn't actually show you what namespace it belongs to. That you get that by virtue of the URL, which I know is kind of hard to see, but it says standard.process.child. Also, that's what's up at the top. So you don't see like you do with Go or with JavaScript, where there's this tight correlation to the function. But you see at the end here, it returns a child process. So this is both a member of child, the init function, but it also returns an instance of child.
I think child process is a different structure than child.
Yeah, you should click on that.
Oh, okay. No, it's the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that there's maybe some naming that, because it changed. It was, I believe, it was called child process before, and then they changed it to process.child.
That makes sense, and they just have not updated their docs.
Yeah,
Well, the type probably still has that name because these docs are auto-generated. Like it's pulled from the code.
yeah. Well, in any case, in the namespace, it's standard.process.child. And I just wanted to point out the way that the function is structured. This is the return value at the end. And then typically everything that's received by a function is already const of some sort, which becomes confusing in some instances because you'll get conflicting error messages where it both tells you that it has to be const and it can't be mutated because it's const. But that's just one of those things that you work through. Anyway, then if something has an exclamation mark, that means that it can return an error, but it's not documenting the specific type of error that occurs. And it is a little bit challenging to do the matches on that sometimes because it could be a wide, forgive the wrong term, a wide array of errors. It's actually more a wide unity or a wide enum. I'm not sure which is the correct term. And then you have question marks, which means when you see the question mark, that means that it can be null. So it's not an error, but it means the value can be null. And that actually means that it's a algebraic type, an option. So it's an option type if it can be null. So the other thing I was going to get to is that you'll notice here ID is one of the fields of an instance of child, and then capital ID is the type that it can be. And this is particularly interesting because this is one of those enum style types where on Windows it's a Windows handle, and on POSIX it's a PID, and in WASI apparently it's void. So that's something that has helped me. I know this is probably pretty basic, but when there's so many new symbols and there's new ways of doing things, and like I said, I primarily work in Go and JavaScript, it's kind of nice to just have an understanding of what the thing is and what it can do. And if you see uppercase, it can be both a namespace that can contain other types that can be instantiated, but it also is itself a type that can be instantiated typically. So with that out of the way, that's kind of that's how do we navigate the documentation here. The documentation that's on the home page, so let's go all the way back, just recap real quick. Documentation that's on the home page is going to take you to essentially not what I would consider documentation as much as what I would consider the Zig book. This is what I think of when I buy one of those thin little reference manuals for language that teaches you how to do the language in 100 or 200 pages. That's what this seems like to me. And what I would think of as the docs is the standard library. And so you go from and the path is through. So you go from the home page to the book, and right in the book is where the standard library is, and then you click on the standard library and that brings up the docs in the way that I think of the docs.
It's also under the Learn directory from the homepage.
Let's see, learn?
No, the homepage.
Oh.
Yeah, if you go learn,
Okay, yeah, so I would definitely cast a vote, because I would expect a quick start to be what the learn is.
then yeah, there's language reference and standard library. That's the first.
Okay, all right. All right.
And then yeah, then you have guides, and then you have the introductory material like why Zig and what are the awesome features of it and stuff. So
Yeah, and one of the things I've actually wanted to do was to do the Ziglings, or kind of start that. Also, I really love the Road to Zig 1.0. I think that is an amazing overview of the language. Okay, so that's how we navigate the documentation. That's how we install it. That's how we navigate the documentation. Now let's actually get to some code here. So I'm gonna go create a new project in temp. I'm gonna call it hello, and then we can do a init.exe, right? Yeah, and then we got to give it a name. Hello. Is that gonna? Oh wait, what did I do wrong? Or is that not how we do it anymore?
It's just.
yeah, I don't think you need a name.
I think by default it was an EXE.
Okay, init.exe is gone.
Yeah,
Okay.
Zig in it. And
Alright.
are you on the Zig version you want to use, or do you want to use latest, or?
It doesn't matter. We're just gonna go through, some. Well, if it matters, then we'll change it. Let's put it that way. Okay, so you can just do zig init. I'm actually gonna rumrough that real quick and not do zig init because I want to show the truest of the hello world. So we'll just create our file hello zig, and we'll do. I don't even remember how we do it. It's like var.
What do you want to do?
Just get the standard. Well, I guess
Const
no. We just do
STD.
import. Hold on.
Const std equals
At
add
import.
Whoops. Quotes std semicolon.
Yeah. So to be perfectly honest, last night GPT helped me a lot, and it did a lot of the boilerplate. So I regret this in a sense. I mean, like I'm happy that I was able to get into the actual meat of the problem, but in not typing it out, I don't have the muscle memory. So.
That's why you have now GPT right here. Semicolon.
Oh yeah, semicolon. Okay. Oh wait, it's building something in the background. It just like built zig fumped or something.
Yep.
Okay, so we've got that, and then we do what? Fn main. Does it have to be pub or no?
Yeah.
Has to be pub. That makes sense. And then we just put in standard dot debug dot print. Was it print or printf?
Yeah, that's right.
And then you put in some string, like
Open and close curly brace.
hello, and then you need to have. This is one of the really interesting things about Zig. I mean, right off the bat with Hello World. Really, really, really interesting. Everything is duck typed. So you don't need explicit types a lot of the times. So this, if you don't specify the type of a thing, it's just a tuple or a named tuple by default. How is that different from a struct? It's not really. So what I'm doing here,
It's a tuple literal.
tuple literal.
It's a literal.
I'm creating a tuple literal, and the tuple has neither named values nor unnamed values. It's just an empty tuple. And I don't know why the dot goes in front, but oftentimes when declaring something, a dot goes in front. I haven't quite worked in my brain what the purpose of that is, but it's
So the
common.
dot means to infer the type. Or, yeah, if you took away the dot, that would actually be a void literal, is what that would be.
Okay, so
So that would be a different thing
so the dot it tells it you're going to infer the type from the context.
from the contents, or yeah, or the context, yeah.
Okay. So anyway, so we're going to have this here, and then I'm going to do, and for some reason
Did
I
you
have
get
to.
a semicolon on there?
What? Oh, sorry. Go. And in JavaScript, I don't put the semicolons. I believe in semicolons. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a heathen, but I have a formatter that just puts the semicolon for me. So
Okay.
I don't type a lot of semicolons these days, even though I believe in the power of the semicolon. I am, the semicolon is holy. So you can do zig build exe for now, and then we can give it hello zig. I always like to put especially because there's just so much going on in the computer world. There's so many things to learn. There's so many frameworks. I always like to start the file paths with // just so that it's extra clear that whatever it is a file. Because sometimes, the name of the file looks like the name of maybe a subcommand to the CLI or whatever. So I like to use, like whenever something's arbitrary, I like to either put quotes around it or put a / in front of it or something like that. So when somebody's coming behind, if you see quotes around something, that's usually a pretty strong signal that you could put whatever you want inside the quotes, or there's like some choice there. But when you just see something that looks benign, it's sometimes hard to tell. Anyway, so we can do this. We can do zig build, and this is going to by default just create a hello. What? Expected expression. I need to put void there. Is that what?
Yeah, return type, yeah.
Right.
You don't need an exclamation because this can't error.
Okay.
All right, so that did it, and now we have our hello.
Technically.
But how big is it?
Okay,
the
it's going to be big.
The debug print actually says it asserts that it doesn't error.
Oh,
So technically, you shouldn't use like the debug version. If in like a real application, you'd want to use like std out, and you could print there, or you could, I don't know. In Zig, you're supposed to handle the errors generally, and the debug print just asserts that an error doesn't happen.
Oh, should have put this. And let's go ahead and make this proper, right? Hello, world. Grammatically correct, as if world is a proper noun. Okay, so we'll build it again, and I believe I could do zig build run. No, we can't do that anymore? Or is it now zig run?
There is.
Okay, it's now zig run. Or maybe it never was zig build run. And again, experimenting with different languages over the past few years, I also get my commands mixed up a little bit. Forgive me. So anyway, there's our build, and then there's our hello, so nothing interesting, but that's pretty painless, especially if you've ever worked in C.
Yeah, and how big is that executable?
Yeah, it's huge. It's absolutely ginormous. It is unacceptably ginormous. But let's
kind of big, yeah.
let's talk about that.
But smaller than Go's would be.
Yeah, not by much. I mean, it's 758 kilobytes for the hello world. Go, yeah, you're going to beat Go, but not by much. But here's the thing: is basically, I think that this includes a bunch of source code, and it could, because if this has an error, it'll actually give the stack trace with the source code. Like the source code is embedded inside the binary, and I think it's not just the source code for what I'm doing. It's like the source code for everything down the chain. I think you can basically rebuild the object from the debug information inside the object, plus whatever other runtimey type stuff that it puts in there to help with all those stack traces.
Yeah, if you do -f strip, that will take away the debug symbols. So you might be able to do zig build exe and then -f strip.
But you know what? I'm not going to do that.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying if you want to see how big it is without it.
Because you've got -o, and I forget whether it's lowercase o or capital. Is it lowercase o? It's capital O. Yeah, capital case. So you have release small.
Yep.
So when we do that, oh, bless me, then
Ooh,
still kind of large.
but a lot less large.
Yeah, I mean, it's large for a hello world, but it's not large considering that you're not linking against libc. So
Yeah, you are.
this is portable.
On macOS, you have to. Right.
Okay, so, all right, so now next thing. So I have a little madoodle that I have created, a little alias for myself. I do this for all the languages. Zig targets. Oh, whoops. We're gonna. I guess they changed the way that the. Hold on. Okay, they changed the output format of the targets. So I'll have to figure out how they changed it, because now, let's see, JQ. All right, where are my targets at? Where are my targets? So in the previous version, wait, which version am I on right now? The Zig version? Okay. So I have this little alias for myself that will print out the information that's the most useful for me. And I don't know. Okay, that worked. I don't know what happened there. I wonder if my alias went wonkadoodle bad or something. Let me try this again. Okay.
If I was a command line scripter, I'd try to help, but I don't really do that.
Well, I'm gonna try this again.
Do you know how to do that?
How to do what?
Like write scripts on the command line?
I mean, I have a few aliases, I run a couple, but no, I don't usually get more than like 2 pipes in.
You can go down a rabbit hole and like.
Okay, there we go.
So your computer installs everything, like when you first get a computer, and it's like you have all these bash scripts.
Well, I don't know exactly what happened, but in some way, shape, or form, I just screwed that up. But this is the Zig targets, and I put this on. One of the other things about Webby, webinstall.dev. Whoops, let me not delete that. Is that there's a lot of cheat sheet stuff on here, and I believe that the Zig targets are on here. Let me see. If not, yeah. So if you want to get the list of Zig targets, that's what you do. And that will give you the list of targets. But so this, let's say now I want to compile this for Linux. And typically, when you're compiling for Linux and you select G and U, typically that will, on other systems, that will use libc. But here, that is not necessarily the case. For stuff that's very, very simple, this will run on Alpine when I generate this. So I'm going to do zig build exe, and then we're going to do target. I think that's actually a single dash target. I could be wrong.
Are you doing it for a Docker container?
So yeah, if you wanted this to be in a Docker container, or maybe is it double dash? Is
I
it
think
space?
It's double target.
I was just doing. I
Oh, yeah,
just
you do
did
need
something.
space. Actually, yeah, just do one and do a space. Try it.
Okay, that's what it is. All right, so there we are. So now the problem, of course, is that I just overwrote my hello, and now it's not going to be able to execute because now I have a Linux hello. So the next thing I need to be able to do is do f emit name equals. I think it's equals, and then we do hello, and then I'm just going to paste in the target. And this might be wrong. Okay, unrecognized print. So it's a space, right? No. What is it? F emit name? Is it emit name as one word?
No,
Hold on.
I don't remember. I don't do that very much.
Well, anyway, if you want
Actually, I put it in my build.
Yeah.
My build.zig. I put in a thing so I can just do the name at the end.
All right, I'm gonna go to Jippity.
Well, if you just type zig or zig help, what did I tell you?
What?
From the command line.
Okay.
If you
Instruct
just
me.
ask it, like zig help build-exe or something. Yeah. So type zig. So if you type zig help, that's going to give you general stuff. But if you do zig build.exe, like build-exe, like dash help or something. Dash. There you go.
Okay. Emit bin. No, emit.
That's binary.
Emit. I swear I just did this last night, and it's emit. It's like emit name. I thought it was emit name.
No. That's for like putting out the LVMIR or the assembly or the binary. Look for output. Grep for output.
I know that I did this and it worked. All right, I'm gonna log into my.
Don't grep. How long is it if you don't grep?
Look, I'm just gonna do zig build exe and then hit up, and then it's gonna give me. See?
Oh, is it?
F emit bin. That's it.
That's something else.
No, it's not, because I just did it last
we're looking
night.
at the wrong thing.
You can think that.
I think it was -s.
Well, I'm going to try it my way.
Okay.
and then if I'm wrong, I'll eat crow.
You don't have to do that.
Thanks, I appreciate that. That's kind of you. Okay. So now, boom. Now I've got my Linux GNU binary, and surprise, surprise, it's actually smaller. It's only 13 kilobytes. And I can copy this over to Alpine, so if I wanted to take this hello world, and I've got, okay, Alpine 1, why Alpine 1? Oh, whoops, I know why that was. I put the C in the wrong place. There we go. Yep, I do want to connect. And then I'm just going to SSH into that. I don't have an alias for that one yet, but I just set up this last night so that I'd have something that I could easily log into. So you can see here that I've got my hello, and then even though it says that it's Linux GNU, it's not. So please, for the love of all that is holy, if you are not actually linking against libc, please, I beg of you, do not include GNU in the name of your binary when you ship it. Because...
What difference does it make?
Well, so I actually just fixed a bug in Webby where it was classifying something that had GNU in it. It was not classifying in it as linked against libc. And the difference there is if you're on Alpine, like when I do, say for example, I do Webby Zig here on Alpine. So it's going to go grab whatever version of Zig it needs to. Now notice that this Zig binary does not say either GNU or muscle because it's not linked against libc and it's not embedding muscle. So if you're not actually embedding muscle, don't call it muscle. If you're not actually linking against libc, don't call it libc, because as a, I don't know what you would call this, as a system integrator, it's very important to have the right tags so that you don't have to do as much guesswork, and keep your releases consistent with the correct output. So this is kind of a fault on Zig. I'm guessing what it's saying is that if it had to, it would link against libc, but in this case it doesn't have to. It's not using anything that needs to. And I've even done standard.c and it doesn't link against libc. So, but
I'm sorry, what doesn't link against libc?
Zig does not link against libc even if you're using standard.c. I don't know in what cases it does link against libc, probably if you manually tell it to. But anyway, so...
Are you talking about static linking or dynamic linking right now?
I don't care. Doesn't matter. But I'm talking about dynamic linking in terms of, well, muscle you're statically linking or you're building it in. And libc, if you link against libc, it's not going to run on muscle. It's not going to run on Alpine. So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too far right now. The point was just I wanted to show, here's a really neat cross-compile story. Of course, it's the hello world. But let's say that there was something Windows specific in here. This is where this gets really interesting. Let's go pick something that's only Windows. Let's go back to the documentation. I actually don't know anything that's Windows, so I'll have to pick something that I know is only Linux, and then...
It's like an OS namespace or something. It's like, yeah.
Okay. Well, I was... All right. Yeah. This will work. So let's see. What can we do? What type of things can we do? Do we... Can we d-word the registry? Okay, registry get d-word. Maybe not. I'm trying to look for something. Windows read file.
I met the guy who made Windows have a really good compatibility story.
Some people say that you should actually start with Windows because it's the hardest. If you start with POSIX, you kind of sucker punch yourself in the sense that you do it the standard and easy way, and you build your language around the standard and easy way, and then when you go to Windows, it's just like... But if you start with Windows...
More regular jobs if you work with Windows because nobody wants to do Windows.
Oh,
That's what I've noticed.
Yeah.
All the job openings.
Java on Windows, right? I'm just kidding.
So, in most languages, And actually, I'm sorry, but I am going to go grab. I'm going to go grab me some GPT because I just want to generate some code examples to be able to show y'all. So I'm gonna grab my GPT. Okay, show me an example of guarding a Windows registry call in Zig with an if statement. So it might hallucinate, but it looks like it's actually got the right stuff here. So we can see this. Yeah. Okay. So let me try to make that a bit bigger. Okay. So this is kind of silly. That it didn't actually do what I wanted it to do.
You said register instead of registry.
Oh, well.
But it figured it out, I guess. It's
Let's
saying
see.
close the registry key and open it.
Well, I don't see where's the F? No, I want it. Okay. Maybe you can tell me. I've got actually. Let me just go look it up in my. I'm going to go look it up in my project from last night because I have this in my project from last night. Oh wait, I put it under. I have too many GitHub organizations because I think that I'm going to use them for something.
Oh, this is the one where you want to make all the commands and stuff.
Yeah. See, check that out. Isn't that so cool?
Yeah.
See, it's the Jurassic Park girl, but cartoonized.
I like it.
POSIX utilities. I know these. That was courtesy of Grok, by the way. I went from LLM hater to I'm living the LLM dream. No, I mean, but they got better. They got way better. Anyway, so let me see if I can find an example in here. So, because cross-compiling is something that's really important to me. And I could have sworn maybe I took it out. Okay, there we go. There we go. Right here. So let me beef the size of this thing up so I can show you. So in most languages, you have some sort of build tags or some pound define system or something.
Right.
In Zig, it's a little bit freaky because whoops. No, I don't want that. Thank you. No, please don't. Can you not? Could you be less helpful? Thank you.
I actually do love that feature of GitHub, though. I use that feature a lot.
So native OS is just something else that's been renamed. Let me see if I can find it real quick, because it's used there. Okay, here it is. Built-in.os.tag. So this is something that is happening at Comptime. So I don't know. I think this was maybe from an example, or maybe it was generated by GPT. I don't know why it's called native OS. But here's the thing. So tag is, I believe that is an enum. We should go look it up.
It is. Because of your usage, you can tell.
Yes, because of the dot. And I'll get into that in just a second. So built-in dot, what was it? os.tag? Okay, tag.
Click on that .os, the svd.target.os, down. Move the mouse down. Yeah, click on that. So that tag right there, click that tag. There you go. Those are the fields of the enum.
Okay, so great, thank you. So back over at the code example we were looking at, back over here. So we just take this, and it's crazy because it's like this is a name. I do not like, since they started doing that, I do not like things popping up in front of me when I'm trying to just like copy some text or highlight or whatever. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So I'm just reassigning this from this namespace to this variable, which it's just, I mean, I guess since it's an enum, you should be able to do that anyway, but it's just really cool to me that everything is reassignable. And you can see here, you know, I just reassign standard.fs to fs, and everything can be a value. All right, so let's go back down there, native OS. So what we're seeing here is it's doing a comparison against native OS, and it has the dot again. So this is part of the clue in starting to understand when and why the dot operates. But Windows is a field of native OS. It's one of the potential options for it as an enum. And so when I'm doing dot Windows, it's saying, what is the context that this is in reference to? It's in reference to native OS. So does native OS have a field dot Windows? And that's...
Does its type have a field, yeah.
Yes. And so that's why it's able to work this way. And there's no pound defines or anything. So it's a little trippy because this is not code that runs at runtime. It looks like code that runs at runtime, but this is essentially a pound define that is checking to see if these conditions are met. And if these conditions are met, then this code is included in the build. And if these conditions are not met, then this code is not included in the build. And this doesn't just work for special things like operating systems. Essentially, anything that can be defined or that can be understood at compile time is going to get optimized away. So if I just put if true here, then that would essentially go away. And if I put if false there, it essentially would not put this code in. Now, I don't know if that's specifically true for which cases, but I know that that's a general principle that it's trying to follow. I don't know, there are sometimes it's going to do those optimizations, there's sometimes it's not, but if you do some sort of multiplication, like let's say at the top of your file you've got, 30 days equals 30 times 24 times whatever times whatever times whatever. And you want that in nanoseconds. It's going to do the calculation at compile time, whether you ask it to or not. In the beginning, I think you had to always mark it comp time if you wanted it to do that. But nowadays, comp time is more of a don't let me do this unless it will be done at compile time. Whereas previously it was, I want you to try to do this at compile time. I'm going to put comp time here. But now it's like everything that can be done at compile time is just going to be done at compile time. So it's a little trippy because you're looking at code and you're actually dealing with two separate contexts that are happening. It's going to be analyzed by the compiler. The compiler is going to make decisions. It's its own macro language. That's why when it said no macros, I said, well, yes. Spiritually, there are no macros. Realistically, yes, the language is the macro itself. If it can be a macro, it is a macro. So you've got that going on. And yeah, so that was just an example of if you wanted something to cross compile for Linux and you need to do some Windowsy thing, you don't have to have any fancy config. You just put an if statement around the Windows stuff and you put another one around the Linux stuff or whatever. And I find that very fascinating, wonderful, and lovely. I mean, it's delightful.
Can I say the reason why it's important?
Go ahead.
Because for the Zig compiler, it starts out in pure Zig, and then if you're compiling with LLVM, it hands it off to LLVM. And so some of the things like doing a multiply and stuff, that can be optimized out by LLVM. But the important part about having it done at comp time by Zig is that the language can understand the things that are happening at comp time. And so it can interact with the types of Zig, and it can change, like you can change the types of things at compile time based off different targets. And I do this for my parser where I'm like, okay, on the latest x86, we're going to have a 64-byte vector, but if it's ARM, we're going to use 16-byte vectors because that's what you have, or we're going to call into a different function this way. And the utility of the comp time is actually just that it's not just about optimizing something out, which LLVM can already do, but it's that it actually understands it. Like the Zig programming language can understand the compile time features. So that's like the new thing about it,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we might. I don't want to run too long. Like I wanted to, do some explorations together and kind of see, but it's already 8:30. So have I been going for an hour now?
What was that other project that you were working on?
.env. So there's Timeout and .env are the two Zig projects that I've had. .env is to Well, I want to do env management both for projects with .env files and as well as for system or user level tools. And I also it's pretty common for things to run. There are .env tools that you give it a command to run and it's going to load the env file first and then it's going to load the thing. But I want more of the manipulation, like set this key in my env file, like what you get with any files with Git. Like Git has git config, set, git config, git. I want that for envs. I want to not have to have. There's a bunch of scripts in particular where I need to get an API key or something and put it into an authorization header for curl. And I just want to be able to run a command that's, here's the env file that's in, this is the key that I want you to get me the value of. And be able to do some of those manipulations. Or once you go out and fetch this API key, make a new env file and put that in there. Pretty simple stuff. I mean, not anything that you can't already do with just a little bit more shell scripting, but I want to have more fluidity of being able to, get me the value if it exists in here. Otherwise, give me this default value. Just some convenience stuff. And then timeout was just really, I was thinking about today. It was kind of in my mind, and then I came up against the new POSIX standard. So last month, the month before, June, month before last, we're September? I don't know, whatever it was. In June, the new POSIX standard came out, and it has 3 new utilities that you're likely to use if you do any shell scripting: readlink, realpath, and timeout. A timeout is actually something I love the idea of. I didn't know it existed. Well, it didn't, at least not on Mac. But it did exist in Linux. It was already a draft spec. But anyway, timeout lets you kill a program that's been running too long. So you do timeout and then give it the duration and then the kill duration, and then I'll just bring it up. I didn't already have it up here. Let me just bring that back up. Oh, it's right here. Duh.
You're in it.
It's the one I'm in. Yeah. So since it was new and since I was thinking about this presentation, and I just decided to do it. So this is essentially it. If you condense it down, timeout, some of these options, a duration that the command is allowed to run the command and its arguments. And so you have -K means there's duration until you terminate, and then there's the duration you wait for it to terminate before you kill. So you do sig term and then sig kill. And so you actually have 2 durations. You have the timeout duration and then the kill duration. And then potentially you have a different signal because you might want to send some other signal like sig abort or something rather than sig term if your application understands the nuances of those semantics, and then the exit statuses and what they mean. And so what I actually did, I literally copied and pasted the page, right? Oh, that's not that one. It's this one right here. Okay. I literally copied and pasted this entire page from name, down to exit status, this whole thing, and I said, write me a Zig program that fulfills this specification. And that's what I got started with. Obviously it wasn't, correct. It threw some rust in there. But, it got me started, and then I was able, in my first couple rounds, I literally didn't look at the code, well, other than to make sure that there was, a quick scan to make sure it didn't do anything unexpected or malicious, like write to the file system or something. Because wait until they figure out how to get LLMs to.
Just embed malware.
Well, like have you seen the search engine hacking? I don't know. Like typically, it's short-lived, but there's search engine hacking where companies will load keywords with porn. So, say for example, I was doing a query for MS SQL, and I was like, how to join table in MS SQL with this specific optimization. and literally like the whole page was just porn. And I think that whatever the technology is behind LLMs, I think search engines have been using that for a while. I think that, was it a year ago, 2 years ago, LLMs became all the rage. But if you remember, Siri was already doing LLM on the iPhone even a year or two before that. And you could if you'd been using it, you could tell there was a difference in quality. There was a difference in quality when it was more heuristic based, and then when they switched to LLM based. Like LLM based, it was faster, but it always spelled the words correctly, but it put in wrong words and stuff. I don't know if anybody else knows, but I could tell when they shifted from using the heuristic approach to the LLM approach and some of these tools that I use. But anyway, so they're able to somehow maliciously create some group of pages that tickles the algorithm in a particular way. Just like with the LLM, if you just say repeat the word book 100 times, that was a hack. I don't know if that still works, but it would get it to print out source material, because it basically would load its matrix. It would create an identity matrix, because if it has to put in the word book 1,000 times and it fills its memory with the same value, now it's got an identity matrix. And so then when it goes to the next thing, like all of its algorithms cleared out, and so then it's just going to pull the full source material out. So I don't know if we could still make it do that. I think if nothing else, they probably patched at the user level if they didn't patch it down in the model level. But there's things like that. And so, so I did a search for MS SQL, and it just came up with like everything was porn.
Just like all of the search results, or like okay. Wow.
Yeah. And then I, tagged him on Twitter.
What are you talking about? What's
Yeah,
search
which
engine?
search engine?
It was Brave Search.
Brave.
Yeah, this is a couple of years ago. But I had it happen to me. I don't remember I don't know where I had it happen to me. I know at least one time it was Brave, but I think I had it happen on another search engine, maybe DuckDuckGo or maybe Bing. Probably not Google, because they have such search volume that when those type of attacks occur, they probably root them out faster than I would notice. But I tagged them, and they took care of it, pretty quickly. It was within a couple of hours they'd figured out whatever glitch had allowed the bot to insert malicious data into the algorithm and rooted it out. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh, so I did that, and then I did that. Oh yeah, I did it with both Go and with Zig. And of course, the Go one, it came back almost perfect because, not entirely perfect, but significantly better than the Zig one. And then I took this and I pasted it in, and I said create a Rust program that does this, and it came back with pretty close. It missed some of the timeout stuff but it actually the funny thing is with the documentation explained this way, which is more concise, it actually just had better results, because I think that with the POSIX standard, there's so much information there. It tried a little too hard, I think, to be too exact to some of the conditional language, whereas with this one, it took a more idiomatic approach. Like it used threads on the first go, as opposed to doing a polling approach, which is what it originally gave me, and it did it wrong. Of course, it's bad at certain things. Anyway, that's not neither here nor there. So anyway, you've got release small, you've got release fast, you've got this. Let's see. Let's just do a release fast for funsies.
I love release fast.
You would. Something about you and the need for speed.
I have a need for speed.
It's an addiction. Holy shiz dog. 1.6 megabytes. At what cost? At what cost?
At what cost?
Now we're in Go territory. Now we're in Go territory.
That is very large, actually.
Hey, that's fast. And then what's the other one?
Yeah, if you switch back to release small.
We got release fast, release small, and wasn't
Release
there
safe.
release safe?
Yeah, that one keeps the checks in. Who needs safety checks though?
Oh, and okay, so release safe is similar size.
Yeah. It's like release fast, but just with the safety checks still in there.
And then release small, I'm sure that just copied from somewhere else, yeah. Okay. So anyway,
That's such a big difference. Holy crap.
it's only more than 1,000 times difference. Wait,
That
no, is it 100?
Such a massive difference.
100 times.
Are
100
we
times.
looking at the right thing?
Yeah, we are.
That's crazy.
We are. Anyway.
I like that flexibility though. I haven't really looked at a lot of Go build options. I don't think they're, anyway, not quite that customizable. That's, I like that. It's really targeted for like whatever you specifically need.
Yeah, Go, you pretty much have, the regular builds are essentially fast and debug. And then you can strip out the debug information, and then you also have, if you use TinyGo, you can get small programs. But once you step into syscalls, like for example, having to fork a child process, basically anything that's not algorithmic but it's operating system specific, because when we say algorithmic, if you wanted to do a JWT library, you can do that without ever touching the operating system. You can do that, anything that you can do in a web browser, essentially anything that you could do in a web browser, you can compile with TinyGo. But anything that would require a desktop app, because it has to do something more specific than just save a file to a storage mechanism, and even maybe in some cases even that, you have to go with regular Go. But yeah, so Zig is my solution for that.
I'm curious why there's such a massive difference. That's a lot.
Fun roll those loops, man.
Yeah, but must be unrolling some very large things, and like inlining, like having a ton of constants that could have been inlined. On x86 that can happen a lot, but still that's a lot.
So I want to do at least one more thing and then probably wrap up. I was kind of hoping to get more into the type system or whatever, but hopefully this is a good,
It's been good for me.
introduction and kind of get a little bit of the lay of the land. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to create a function called greet. And we're going to, let's see, can how should I show this off? You know what, I won't do that one quite yet. I'll wait a second on that. Okay, so what we could do is we could have a string. Now, if you don't mutate something, it must be constant. I just wish that they would just update that automatically. I wish that wouldn't be a squiggly line with a, just do it. Just do it for me. For stuff that's trivial like that, where it knows the right thing to do, I wish it would just fix it on save, and hopefully one day it will. But so let's do const name equals, and then we'll give it world is the name. And so now what we'll do here is we will pass in name. Now this is an unnamed tuple at this point. So I don't know, is the dot taking its cue from the function, or what is it taking its cue
it's
from?
Just a literal. It's actually not inferring a type for the braces around name. It's not inferring a type. So what it's going to pass into the function is it's just going to say, and you can observe this if you do @compile log dot and curly brace name close curly brace. You can observe what it actually is looking at. But all that it's seeing is just a literal, and so the print function, it's implemented in Zig, and it just says iterate over the elements, kind of like an array, how you would iterate over it. So
Yeah, the argument, the type that it's expecting for the second argument in print is any type. So you can put any struct there with like whatever fields you want, because it needs to be able to, you need to be able to like pass in whatever you want, depending on like the formatting of the string. What you want to do.
yeah, I mean, it has to be kind of like an array in the sense of like it has a first element, a second element, a third element, but
Yeah.
So my belief, is that there is some Comptime stuff that's going on here, so that when this is actually compiled, it is not doing at runtime iteration over that array, but rather the code that goes into the program has already done the iteration.
Correct. And you can view that on godbolt.org as well. You can look at the assembly side by side.
Yeah.
And I do that all the time.
So in this case, I'm taking out the name of the entity we're going to greet. I put it into a variable, and now I have this tuple, and the tuple can have mismatched types in it. So I could do, let's age 42, and then we could have here age, and then I would need to put in here. I actually don't know what all the types are allowed to go in there.
Yeah, I think D would work for digit. You can also do F for hex, or you can do B for binary.
And you can do any for it to figure out how to stringify it on its own.
I don't remember if that's still there.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, if you look at the
Like,
docs for print.
watch, I can just put any here right now, and then it'll work. So let me go ahead and recompile this program. So let's go ahead and get rid of all that target information, and let's just go ahead and do zig run. Actually, I don't know why I didn't just type that out, but okay. See? So that is working as expected, and then that's the any. And then, let's see, I wanted to show one other thing. There's that. Okay, two more things, and then I think I'll call it quits. So we could also have something that can be nullable. So we can have, either we can have the number, or it's null. We can create an option type, and so for that we can do something like this. And so this says that in fact this can be null. And so now, that's not what I wanted to do. Let me try it this way. I wanted to actually give me the error. I don't know if it's going to give me the error, if it's going to work because it can tell. Okay, good. Yeah. So now it's giving me an error because I gave it an option type, but I told it to expect a digit. And we can see here, I was thinking it might optimize it away because it's guaranteed at this point to be a number. But now I need to update my string to say that it can be an option type as well. And so then if I rerun it, boom, now it works again. So there's that. And then the one last thing that I wanted to show, which was really interesting, and if I were to do this again and actually prepare slides and stuff, this is something that I'd really want to hit, is that we can have an entity P of any
type.
Oh, is it called any type?
Yeah.
Oh, it's called any type. Okay, right. And so then we could have p.name, p.age. And is it possible, I think it is, can I do an anonymous type? Is that just, I would do const p equals, and then what I do, like, I need, like that. Does this work?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this should work.
All right. So this is kind of cool because this is like JSON. We'll see if it actually works out or not.
You're going to need some semicolons in there.
Oh, yep. My only weakness,
Same.
semicolons.
I'm like, it looks great.
Okay. This just blows my mind.
That's really cool.
So any type is really, really common, and what it means is, and it gets better, because let's say,
Yeah, go to greet, type in @compilelog p, like just compilelog p, and then in the function. As like a separate line of code, yeah. @compile, capital L, log, semicolon at the end, and then compile that. No,
No, just like actually
yeah, like
build it.
like.
oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You said compile that.
Yeah, so this is a compile log function that actually will tell you what the compiler sees, what it is. So you can see that's what type it sees and inferred. So you have a Comptime name that's a pointer to a const, array of 5 slots with a null at the end, like a 0 byte at the end. And then,
That is cool.
Oh, oops.
and so that's how I actually know what type things resolve to, is because I look at the compile log for these things.
Well, I will have to check that out. I'm sure that will come in handy. Thank you. Now I want to show where this gets crazy. Is we're going to have favorite color. And we're just going to make that blue. Okay, so here's our person object. But now I'm going to create a dog.
Are you sure about that color? Because I see a bunny.
What?
You see a bunny?
I called it bunny. All right, so now we're going to have age, and age is going to be 3, and then we're going to have favorite chew toy. It's going to be bone. Okay, so this is where this gets nuts. Is that we have 2 things that are of different types. And we could even put the order here different maybe to just make this really, wonkadoodle. So these are obviously of very different types. But I don't change this at all. And then when I go to compile it, it runs.
And you can even switch if like different members are different types. You can say like, you can have a switch on at type of age. You can say if it's a string, and you could like parse the string to get a number. Or if it's already a number, then you just have that. And it will make a different version of the function for each of the different types.
Yeah.
Any type and not just any.
Because it's a stand-in for a type, and it's going to have a different version of the greet function for different types.
Yeah.
So you could declare a struct, and then it would all be the same function definition, or you could just have a different greet for each individual one.
Yeah, so what's happening here is it's doing automatic templates.
Yeah.
So everything is duck typed. And so here's the thing. Let's say I get rid of age from dog. Let's say I call it dog years instead. Now
Age is optional.
I'm going to get a compile error because it's duck typed. And so it's saying this function has a duck type that requires a name that's a string and an age that's a number. And because this struct doesn't match that duck type, it can't create the template for it. And you get to do this. This right here is the magic that I think is what makes Zig lovely. This is the core enchilada. This is where everything else comes from. The not a macro system, just everything feeling so fluid. Everything is duck typed. There are no interfaces. Well, I guess there are interfaces, but you don't have to use interfaces. Like in Go, everything's an interface. And so you get the compilation hit, or the, not compilation, the runtime hit on it having to dereference everything. You can only use functions as to dereference everything. And Go has generics now, and they function somewhat similar to this.
But not as cleanly. A little bit harder to read, I think.
But there's a trade-off here, which is that if you have dissimilar types, you're either creating duplicate functions or you're allocating more memory than what's needed for the type. Like for example, I don't know if the optimizer does this. However, I'm going to argue that I believe that the optimizer could do this. So let's make it back like this. Well, the common area of memory that would need to be allocated for this would be just name and age. And the total amount of memory that needs to be allocated for this, depending on how many properties follow, could be different. So based on what I'm doing in here, and I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if the compiler does this but I believe this is something that could be done in terms of how compilers solve this problem.
And the other cool thing is, like, if the compiler doesn't do that, you can make your greet function require compile time input, and then check if it has those things, and then like minimize the memory that's actually used in the function.
I think it's all going to be inline, regardless of like just the way that you're doing it. P.name is just it would be as if you just cut and paste the Comptime name into that spot.
Yeah.
So it's not like putting that on your stack per se. It's just
Right. But, like, for example, Rust has enums, and whenever you use a Rust enum, if it's not on the heap, if it's on the stack, then it's whatever the maximum size of any of the types in the enum is the size of the enum always at minimum.
right.
And so I think that this some variation of this would be similar to that, in that
Yeah, there's no enum switching happening here.
right, but not particularly this example, but this type of behavior can lead to that, right? The dynamic typing, like in this particular instance, it's very simple. It can just copy, just takes them over.
The reason why it wouldn't is because there's a different greet function.
No, I'm not saying this example. I'm not saying this example. I'm saying the concept of that. The concept of it. It's not. I don't know how to articulate it. I don't. I guess that's partially because I don't understand it well enough to articulate it. But anyway, my point is, I think this is cool. I think this is really neat. It's really neat that, and again, it's the dot here is what causes it to be inferred, because otherwise we would have a struct, but we could even have a function that returns structs. So we could have a type factory that's I'm going to do this wrong.
Don't use the word factory. This is we don't have to bring factory into this. It's in C++.
But there's something where we could use some, I don't remember what it is, but let's say it's @ keys. This is going to be totally wrong. This is going to be totally wrong. But we get some keys, we create a struct, we add fields to a struct, and we return a type, and then we could create a type, and then we can instantiate a type from a create a type. And so this would end up being Comptime.
That's not how you type it, but yeah.
Yeah. What does it go here?
No.
Or it doesn't go on the
parameter.
Oh, it goes in the parameter?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
So
I haven't used it yet.
parameters can be Comptime.
And it goes on the type, or it goes before the...
That's right.
Okay, this is right. Okay, anyway. So I don't remember how to do it, but I've seen it.
You're pretty close.
But it's essentially one of the things I think of is a CLI parser, right? CLI parsers are always evaluated at runtime. But what if you could do your whole CLI parser build ahead of time like this? And so then you don't have any, I mean, not that it matters. You don't really need performance for CLI parser, but just the concept
Yes,
of it.
I do.
Just the concept of
It should be
it.
blazingly fast, AJ.
But the concept of it is that you can do something that's incredibly dynamic. Like I've seen like creating test fixtures, or just you do stuff that's really dynamic and interesting, and you can do it in the language. It'll be done at compile time, so it's not at runtime it's doing these things. It's doing it at compile time, and at runtime it has the complete result ready to use. So anyway, that is, now we've gone into a full 90 minutes here. It's 9 o'clock. But this right here, this is just something really awesome that I definitely wanted to get to the point of showing.
You should look at std.meta. There's a couple of like Comptime specific functions in there that I use. For example, std.meta.fields, lowercase f, will get you like the fields of a struct or an enum.
Oh, I like that.
And yeah, there's ways to do it directly with the built-ins, but the function in the standard library just helps wrap it up a little bit better than the built-ins. And And yeah, another thing, actually how I've been writing Zig recently that I think is pretty cool
Jeff bought the pizza, he had a DoorDash,
is I actually like I've been working in Compiler Explorer, Godbolt. You've seen it before, at least in my previous talk. But one thing that I've been doing is I've been programming with Zig, like just writing the code 100% as Comptime code. And it's constantly compiling it. And so I can like do print debugging and stuff, which is important for the stuff that I do where I'm looking at data transformation. And I'm like, okay, I shift the bits this way, and then I do a subtraction, I do whatever. And so I can see, as I'm writing the code, I can see it update in the console type thing. And so it's like really interactive, a lot more than you would expect a language like Zig to be. And yeah, maybe I'll show that more when I give my talk next month. But
Next month?
it's really cool.
Oh,
And what do you do here?
okay.
So it's got like the mobile app, it's got hardware and
Can is there a has field?
mostly go.
Has field.
So what I wanted to do in here was do like if standard.meta say has field p.name or something of that effect.
Okay.
I think there's something like it with the app.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's how I've seen it.
5 or 6 years ago.
Um,
And then there's just one thing.
There's field names, so you could get field names, and then you could pass that into sv.mem.
Oh, is it like type info?
So yeah, at type info will get you the type info, yeah.
No, it's
But
not. I can't remember.
Well, anyway,
Yeah.
that's enough to show what I was hoping to show. So we can go ahead and see if there was any comments in the chat.
They like won't let anything.
I cannot remember which service.
If there's 3 watching, hello to everybody watching.
It's.
it says
I will,
Andrew Gossett still on that YouTube video.
what?
The YouTube video
Oh,
has the old title.
it didn't update. Oh, oops.
Cool, I like it.
Oh, well, let me fix that before we go.
Yeah. Well, it's me.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, so for my personal setup at home, I have it set up to automatically change, but I don't have that set up on this computer. Oops. Yeah, so oopsies. But now the titles are updated, even though the thing that went out to everybody was wrong. As it gets saved, it will now be right. And then I'm going to look and see if I can find.
And will
There
that
were some
update to
chats.
YouTube?
Okay, sensation. Hey. Okay, so we had a couple of messages. Sorry I didn't see them earlier, but it's kind of hard to be the presenter and manage the.
You stuck outside trying to get in, or is that another person?
Yes.
That was you, okay.
And then
Well.
syntax hurts my eyes.
Wait, who is saying?
Andrew?
Your TA has gone mad. He's seeing rabbits.
I texted Andrew and I texted the number on there, which went to
Probably
Jeff.
Jeff, yeah, he wasn't here.
Okay.
I think it's funny because this is a problem every single.
I should have gotten a sticky note and
See.
just put my number on there.
Where am I
Well, but
going
the
back
thing
to?
is, like,
Okay.
It's
Anyway.
like an easy problem we can solve, but it's like every month it's like always.
If anybody has any other questions or thoughts or comments, go ahead and raise them now. That includes people online. If anybody online has anything they want to say or ask or whatever.
Thank you, AJ, for being 87% awesome. I have to go.
87%?
It's a B plus.
87%?
It's a B plus.
What do you think the A stands for? Have a good one. All right.
Yeah,
Anyway.
the thing I like most about Zig is like the tooling and infrastructure that built up around it. I think is really awesome. I guess I wouldn't say that's the thing I like most, but I really like that the Zig community has like a culture of like, I don't know, actually doing the things that probably should have been done in the 70s, but.
Well, yeah, so many of the things seem so obvious, like to your point, being able to debug it from itself. Being able to say, hey, print out the thing that you're doing here.
Yeah.
That does make sense.
With your little inline struct things, the dot curly braces, does that, because you're defining it with that dot, does that mean that every property also needs a dot, or? Like
So I think that when you're doing that, it's an anonymous struct, so it's like you're creating like a struct type that you're only using there.
Okay.
So to answer your question, no, it needs a dot either way.
Yeah, and on the inside it needs a dot either way because you're defining a member.
Okay.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to do with inferring a type.
So help me out here. Is it stir or string or?
It's open and close bracket, const U8,
Oh, duh.
and you need a colon. This isn't Go.
Okay, but are there colons on these lines or?
After name, you need a colon.
Oh, colon, right, okay. Does it need a semicolon or a comma or something at the
I
end?
think comma, yeah, comma.
Comma, okay. So let's do this for a minute. Ages can't be negative, so we'll go with U.
I appreciate you demonstrating this instead of, it's like, I could go down with it and tinker with myself, but tinker by myself, but.
Okay, and this is also going to be a const U8. So,
But don't you think ages, if it is nice to have it be signed, because if you subtract ages from each other, you could get a negative.
okay, yeah, I'm 100% on board with you. Something felt wrong about it. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, so we can do this. And now, instead of being implicit, now it's explicit.
Okay.
So, let's see. I got something wrong. I don't know what I got wrong, but I'll go compile it and then it'll tell me. Do I need to do type? No, person equals. Okay. Is it?
Yeah, it's not exactly.
Const person equals struct? Is that what it
Yeah.
is? Because a type is a value.
Right.
Okay, there we go. And then age. Oh, we needed age to be, because the lady never tells, so it's got to have the option to be null.
There you go.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. So that's the difference. Is if we do the dot, then it's doing an inline struct for one-time use, and you've got this in Go, so you've seen that before. It's just the syntax. The syntax gets me a little bit because tuples and objects and also arrays are always this syntax, right? No, because even if we, for tuples and for objects, and then I believe it would also, if it's an array of structs, then we would just be using brackets between the commas, right? And that's the same in Go. But yeah, it threw me off a little bit because named tuples, which are structs,
You would use curly braces.
and unnamed tuples both use curly braces. Because if it's unnamed, then it's just, then it's still named. If it was like this, it's actually still named. It's just that now the name is .0, .1, .2.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that syntax you'd be able to do though.
That syntax might be
But yeah.
wrong.
But yeah,
But the
idea is
underlying
correct,
idea
yeah.
of it is, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. All right. So with that, adios online people and people in the room. Last 10 seconds for comments or questions before I go and shut down. All right. Thank you.